Hey everyone, welcome back. It's good to have you here again. In the background, you've got some peaceful Minecraft gameplay, just something calm to look at while we settle in together. Tonight we're spending time with stories from the Confessions subreddit, just people sharing things they've been carrying around, things they maybe haven't told anyone else. If there's a subreddit you'd like to hear stories from in a future video, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I always appreciate those suggestions. And if you end up enjoying this video, a like or subscribe helps more than you might think. But no pressure at all. This is just a space to relax, maybe fall asleep to if that's what you need. We're going to take our time with these stories tonight. There's no rush. So let's ease into the first one. My parents have a 39-year age gap, and I've never told my friends the truth. My dad was born in 1925 and my mom in 1964. Because of the massive age gap, I was so embarrassed as a kid that I lied to everyone and said he was my grandfather. He passed away 12 years ago, and I still haven't corrected the lie. Most of my long-term friends still think I lost a grandfather, not my father. It feels like I've erased his real role in my life just to avoid the gross looks and the math people do when they realize he was 40 when my mom was born. I feel like I betrayed him by being ashamed of him until the very end, and now it's too late to take it back. That's a heavy thing to carry around. 12 years is a long time to live with that kind of regret. You can understand why a kid would feel uncomfortable explaining that situation to their friends. Kids just want to fit in. They don't want to deal with questions or judgment about their family. But looking back as an adult and realizing you never got to honor your dad publicly, that you essentially erased his role in your life just to avoid awkward conversations, that has to sit with you in a really difficult way. And the thing is, there's probably no good time to correct it now. 12 years later, how do you even bring that up? Hey, remember my grandfather who died? Well, actually that was my dad. It would open up a whole new set of questions and conversations, so they're stuck with it, carrying both the original shame and now the guilt of never having corrected it. It's one of those decisions you make as a child to protect yourself that ends up following you for the rest of your life. Grief is complicated enough without adding that layer of feeling like you denied someone's place in your life, and you can't go back and fix it. You can't tell him you're sorry. That's what makes it so hard. Let's move to the next one. I used an exploit to steal from my first job and was never caught. I used to work for a store here in the USA that's popular in rural areas. You see this store everywhere. Sometimes 2 locations will be a mile apart on the same road. Where I lived, there were 5 locations in a 2-mile range. I worked the register most nights while the lead would be doing whatever it was she did. Sometimes we had sales, and they had a manual code you would type for the items on sale. That code was different every time. One day I hit the wrong button, and the code took 90% off instead of 25% it was meant to. The lead came up and helped me fix the transaction, but I remembered the code and wrote it down and shoved it in my jacket pocket and forgot about it. About a month later, I found a paper in my pocket. I tried the code again at work that night, and it worked. The codes had changed, but this one stayed as 90%. After thinking about it almost all night, I decided to go with a friend and see if we could get an employee at another store to use the code. So we grabbed a few items and went to check out. After she rang up our stuff, I told her I had a code. She paused for a minute, but I said I worked at the store closer to town, and she didn't say anything else and typed it in. Sure enough, it worked. I spent the next week at work waiting for someone to say something, but it never happened. I thought for sure that woman would say something, but she didn't. About 2 weeks later, I went back and did the same thing, but this time I had more stuff. I told her the code and she accepted it, and we went on about our day. I was feeling really good after that, and I relaxed. No one was gonna know. So I started buying everything there. A whole cart of food, clothes, cleaning supplies, you name it. If I saw that same cashier in there, I would load up because I knew she wasn't talking. No one other than my mother was suspicious of it. A full year, I'm pretty sure we got 5 or 6 grand worth of free stuff easy. After a full year of doing this, the code stopped working. I guess they discovered the code and removed it. I was in the process of moving and had quit by the time it stopped working, so I wasn't worried about being fired for it. I used to feel guilty about it, but now that I'm much older, I was 18 or 19 when this happened, I actually don't feel bad. This company has been caught doing so much illegal stuff and not paying employees correctly that I don't care. I won't even shop at their stores, even if there's one on every corner. It's interesting how people justify things to themselves over time. At first there's that nervousness, that constant waiting to get caught, checking over your shoulder, wondering if today's the day someone says something, and then when nothing happens, it becomes routine. It becomes normal. The fear fades and it just becomes something you do. And then years later, they've completely reframed it in their mind. They learn things about the company, about how it treats employees, about illegal practices, and suddenly the guilt disappears. It becomes almost righteous in their mind, like they were getting back at a corrupt system rather than just stealing because they could. Whether that makes it right or wrong isn't really for us to decide. It's just one of those confessions where someone did something they knew was wrong at the time, got away with it completely, and now looks back with a totally different perspective. The human mind is really good at making peace with the things we've done, especially when we can find reasons to justify them later. But you have to wonder about that cashier who kept accepting the code. Did she know something was off? Was she just trying to be helpful to a fellow employee? Or did she get in trouble when they finally discovered the code and traced back all those transactions? We'll never know. Let's move to the next one. This one's heavy. Terminally ill and racking up credit card debt with zero cares to give. I've had cancer for 2 years now, did chemo, lost my leg, beat odds and managed to even go back to work. Well, things hit the fan and treatment stopped working. Probably got weeks, maybe couple months at best. I am 22, don't own a house, don't own my car, have maybe £2,000 in the bank. So I took out a credit card, 6.5 thousand limit, 0% APR for 20 months. I was previously building up a good credit score and am now buying whatever I want. The debt will die with me and I give no cares. And if you want to beef me about driving your bank fees up with this behavior, at least you get to live. Edit. Thank you all for your amazing responses. Unfortunately, it's bone cancer that has spread through my whole body, so I'm too weak now to travel far, as much as I would have wanted to see the world. I'm going to go bigger and do some good stuff, if you have ideas. I want to do some big donations to food banks and cancer charities that supported me through my journey and make some differences before I pop. Also, shame on all of you asking me for money. Update 2. Took out some more cards, thanks for the suggestions. Some of you asking, I'm a girl. I've bought lots of things for my family, mostly sentimental things with my handwriting on. I bought a crab at a fancy seafood place. That was awesome. I've donated to animal shelters and food banks. Also to the cancer charities who helped drag my backside through this. Also, can you all stop telling me to find Jesus? I respect those of you who are praying for me, because I know that's your way of thinking of me, and I'm really touched by that. But finding God is in no way in my plans, and not what I believe will happen after death. Trying to force religion down a dying person's throat is really not the vibe. Update 3. Still hanging on. I've deteriorated quite a lot now. Lost a lot of functionality in my body at this point, so I'm bedbound and mostly just watching lots of TV and seeing family. But I'm comfortable, eating apples and cheese and lots of little treats. Thank you all for still checking in and thinking of me. I'm really fortunate to be surrounded by my friends and family right now. When you boil it all down to it, in the end, it really is all you need. Anyway, I'll try update again soon. That one really sits with you. 22 years old. Think about that for a moment. 22. And facing the absolute end of everything, knowing you have weeks, maybe months if you're lucky. And instead of falling apart completely, instead of just giving up, she's finding ways to make it meaningful. She's leaving gifts for her family, things with her handwriting on them, so they'll have something to hold on to. She's donating to the charities that helped her. She's eating fancy crab and apples and cheese and finding small joys where she can. And that last update, when she talks about being bedbound but comfortable, surrounded by family and friends, and realizing that when you strip everything else away, that's really all that matters. That's not something most people learn until they're much, much older, if they learn it at all. But she figured it out at 22 because she had to. The part about people trying to push religion on her in her final days, that's something too. She's very clear about respecting people's prayers, understanding that's how they show they care, but also setting a boundary that she's not interested in being converted on her deathbed. There's a strength in that, in knowing what you believe and what you don't, even when you're that vulnerable. And the credit card debt? Honestly, when you put it in that context, it's hard to argue with her logic. The debt dies with her. She's making her last days a little better, helping some people and organizations along the way, and yeah, some bank is going to eat the loss. But like she said, at least they get to keep living. It makes you think about what really matters, doesn't it? What you'd do if you knew you only had weeks left. Would you spend it worried about being proper and following all the rules, or would you do exactly what she did? We can take our time moving to the next one. Marrying for money sucks, and I do not recommend it. Married a 40-year-old when I was 19. Started dating when I was 17. Yes, it was gross, but that's what happened. The only reason he married me is because I was hot. The only reason I married him is because he had money. I actually do have other redeeming characteristics, but he married me because I was hot. I know this. Everyone knows this. It doesn't feel great, but I can deal with it. We've been married 20 years, 4 kids, so we are stable and we have lots in common at this point. And we do love each other, but if I could go back and slap myself, I would. What nobody tells you, or they try and you don't listen because you're a young teenager, is that marrying like this means you will owe him. For everything, every single day, not just in the bedroom but in every other matter in your life. The stuff you never imagined someone else trying to decide for you. And you don't just owe him for the money, it's a lot heavier than that. He'll never say it out loud, but you'll know the deal. Fundamentally unequal. He'll pull rank at the most random times and it will make you feel like you're falling through the floor. I don't hate my life or anything. I accept that I made this bed and I have to lie in it, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. My oldest daughter is 2 years younger than I was when I met my husband, and I can't imagine. That last line really drives the whole thing home. When your own child reaches the age you were when you made a life-altering decision, and you look at them and can't imagine them making that same choice, can't imagine them with someone that much older, can't imagine them entering into that kind of arrangement, that's when you really understand how young you were, how much you didn't know. 20 years, 4 kids, and they've built something that works on the surface. She says they love each other, they have things in common, they're stable. But underneath all of that is this fundamental imbalance that never goes away. This sense of owing him not just financially, but in every aspect of life. And the way she describes it, how he'll pull rank at random times, and it makes her feel like she's falling through the floor. You can feel how destabilizing that must be. Never knowing when it's coming, never feeling like you're on equal footing. And the thing is, he probably doesn't even see it that way. He probably thinks everything is fine, that they have a good marriage, but she's living with this constant awareness of the imbalance, this constant low-level anxiety about when he's going to remind her of it, intentionally or not. She's very clear that she doesn't hate her life. She's made peace with the choice she made, but she also wants other people, especially young people, to understand what they'd be signing up for. That marrying for money isn't just a practical transaction that you can keep separate from the rest of your relationship. It colors everything. It shifts the power dynamic in ways you can't predict when you're 19 and just thinking about financial security. People tried to tell her. She admits that. But she didn't listen because she was young and thought she knew better, or thought it wouldn't apply to her. Now she's the one trying to tell others, knowing they probably won't listen either. The next one's a bit lighter. We could use that right about now. I stay up late at night to watch movies specifically so nobody joins me. Let me preface this with, I love my wife, I love my daughter. However, I do not love watching a movie with them. Movies should be watched in the dark, with a big bowl of popcorn and minimal to zero talking. My wife insists on having the lights on full blast, not even dimmed, but bright as noon. Then she enjoys chatting, and then asking 15 minutes later what's going on in the movie. Or when I'm doing my annual Vincent Price marathon in October, call them stupid old movies. The biggest cardinal sin are the distractions. Hey, can you get me some milk? Run to the kitchen and get me a snack. When I watch a movie, that's what I'm doing. I'm watching a movie. No phones, no laptops, no tablets. All the while paying attention to the movie, and not 15 other things. So if there's a movie I want to see, and I know she won't be interested, I wait for her to go to bed, then make some popcorn and watch a good movie. By myself, with no distractions. After I type this and hit post, I'm making some popcorn and watching the new Knives Out movie. I'll see your replies in a couple hours. This one's pretty harmless, really. It's just about someone who has a very specific way they like to watch movies, and it's completely incompatible with how their family watches movies. And instead of making it into a big thing, instead of trying to force everyone to watch movies his way, or getting frustrated every time, he's just quietly carved out his own time to do it the way he enjoys. There's something kind of nice about that, actually. He's not being mean about it. He's not criticizing his wife and daughter for how they enjoy movies. He just recognizes that they're never going to enjoy movies together the same way, so he finds times when they're asleep to have his own movie-watching experience. And you can understand both sides, right? Some people treat movies like a focused, immersive experience. Lights off, no talking, no distractions. The movie has your complete attention. Other people treat movies like a casual social activity, something playing in the background while you chat and snack and multitask. Neither way is wrong, they're just different. The Vincent Price marathon comment is funny though. Imagine being really into classic horror films, doing your annual October tradition, and your partner is calling them stupid old movies. That would get old fast. At that point, yeah, waiting until everyone's asleep and enjoying it on your own terms makes perfect sense. It's one of those small relationship compromises that nobody really talks about. Not everything has to be done together. Sometimes the healthiest thing is to recognize your incompatibilities and just do your own thing for a couple hours. Let's move on to the next one. I paid a couple of girls to feign interest in my mate. I've got a mate who's nearly 30 now. To be honest, he's not a great-looking bloke, but more importantly, he's had no experience with girls ever, which sucks because he's genuinely a great dude and maintains friendships with some girls, but he tends to friend zone himself before asking one out. He's suffered pretty hardcore anxiety and depression and hates going out. So this year at my birthday, one of the only events he'll come out for, because he's a great bloke and knows it means a lot to me, I asked a couple of random girls if I could buy them a drink and they could just compliment my mate on something and have a small chat. No obligation to be anything but just polite and nice. And my lord, he's been a different dude ever since. His confidence has skyrocketed. He's even asking when we're going out next. If he ever found out what I did, I genuinely think he would never leave the house again. This is one of those situations where your heart can be in the right place and you can still end up doing something that's ethically questionable. You can see exactly why he did it. Watching your friends struggle with anxiety and depression, watching them isolate themselves and friend zone themselves before even trying, seeing them miss out on life because they're convinced nobody would be interested, and then finding a small way to give them a confidence boost that actually worked. His friend is doing better, he's going out more, he's asking to hang out. That's a real positive change. But it's built on a lie. Those girls weren't genuinely interested, they were paid to be nice, and now his friend's confidence is based on an interaction that wasn't real. And the friend can never know, because if he found out, it would confirm every negative thing he believes about himself. It would validate his worst fears, that nobody would show interest in him unless they were literally paid to do so. So now this guy has to carry the secret forever. He can't ever tell his friend, he can't ever let it slip. And every time he sees his friend doing better, being more confident, getting out more, he has to sit with the knowledge of how that confidence was built. The intention was good, the result seems positive, but the foundation is shaky, and if it ever comes out, it could do more damage than if he'd never done it at all. That's the risk with this kind of thing. You're trying to help, but you're building someone's confidence on something false, and if they ever discover that, it could shatter them. It's a difficult one, no easy answers there. The next story is about a lie that spiraled way out of control. I've been faking an allergy for years, and now it's gone way too far. This started as a dumb excuse, and now I'm in too deep. Years ago, I went on a date with this girl who was obsessed with peanut butter. She kept pushing me to try her peanut butter smoothie, even after I said I wasn't in the mood. Instead of just saying no, I blurted out, "Oh, I can't, I'm allergic." Big mistake. She was super concerned, asked a million questions, and I figured, whatever, I'd never see her again. But then she introduced me to her friend group, and they all knew about my allergy. At that point, correcting it felt too awkward. Fast forward 6 years. I'm still friends with these people. My allergy is a known fact. They warn restaurants for me. They check ingredients. One of them even threw out a peanut butter cake someone brought to a party, just to be safe. The worst part? I love peanut butter. I eat it in secret. I have a stash at work. Once, my best friend said, "Man, it must suck not knowing what a Reese's tastes like." And I just nodded solemnly. Now, my girlfriend, who also believes I'm allergic, wants us to move in together, and she's super cautious about food. I'm terrified she'll find my peanut butter stash and think I've been lying to her, which I have, for years. I have no idea how to get out of this. Do I fake a miracle recovery, a medical misdiagnosis, or do I just keep the lie going forever? 6 years. 6 entire years of maintaining a lie that started because he didn't want to try a peanut butter smoothie, and now it's become this massive thing where people are actively protecting him from something that isn't even real. They're checking ingredients, warning restaurants, throwing out food just to keep him safe from an allergy he doesn't have. And the image of him nodding solemnly when his best friend said it must suck not knowing what a Reese's tastes like, that's both funny and kind of sad. He's created this whole false version of himself, and now he has to maintain it in all these little moments. But now it's getting serious because his girlfriend wants to move in together, and she's going to find his secret peanut butter stash. And when she does, she's not going to think, oh, he made up an allergy 6 years ago on a first date. She's going to think he's been lying to her specifically, deliberately, throughout their entire relationship. It's going to look so much worse than it is. The thing is, at this point, there's no good way out. A miracle recovery is going to seem suspicious. A medical misdiagnosis after 6 years is going to raise questions. But continuing the lie means living a double life forever, hiding peanut butter, always being vigilant about not getting caught. The best option is probably just coming clean, being honest about how it started and how it spiraled, and dealing with the consequences. Yeah, people are going to be annoyed that they've been accommodating a fake allergy for 6 years. His girlfriend might be upset about the lying, but it's better than getting caught with a peanut butter stash and having to explain that, and it's better than maintaining this exhausting double life forever. But you can understand why he hasn't done that yet. 6 years is a long time. The longer a lie goes on, the harder it becomes to correct it. Every day that passes makes it more awkward to come clean. So he's just stuck, trapped in a lie of his own, making over something as silly as not wanting to try a smoothie. It's one of those small lies that teaches you why honesty is usually the better policy, even when it's awkward. Let's move to the next one. I once lied on my CV. I got the job and got promoted. I lied on my CV and somehow convinced the world I was a coding wizard. Now I'm stuck in a never-ending cycle of Google searches and caffeine-fueled coding sessions. This is when I regret it, and I do, indeed. My browser history is a treasure trove of how to fix syntax errors, and what does this error message mean? I learned to code on the job, which is just a fancy way of saying I'm making it up as I go along. My colleagues think I'm a genius, but really, I'm just good at hiding my panic. When they ask me to explain my code, I launch into a confident-sounding, jargon-filled monologue, hoping they'll get lost in the technical mumbo-jumbo. The best part? I got a promotion and a raise, which basically translates to we're paying you more to keep pretending you're good at this. Edit. Thanks. I feel so supported by the huge IT and developer community. At least I've learned surprisingly fast, and also that truth is told by how you work. Action over words. Maybe after all, I can call myself a real programmer now. This is one of those fake it till you make it stories that actually worked out. And honestly, it's probably more common than people think, especially in tech fields. They went in not knowing what they were doing, panic searched their way through every problem, learned on the job, and apparently did well enough that they got promoted and got a raise. And that edit at the end is important. They learned surprisingly fast. The truth is told by how you work, not by what you claim to know at the start. Action over words. That's actually a pretty healthy way to look at it. Yeah, they lied on their CV, but then they put in the work to actually become competent. They learned the skills they claim to have, and now they're questioning whether they can call themselves a real programmer, and the answer is probably yes. If you're doing the work, solving the problems, writing code that functions, then you're a programmer. Doesn't really matter how you got there. A lot of people in tech have some version of this story. They exaggerated their skills to get in the door, then spent the first few months terrified and Googling everything, and eventually they actually became good at it. It's not the recommended path, and it's definitely stressful, but it works more often than you'd think. The difference between this and some of the other confessions is that this person actually followed through. They didn't just fake it and coast. They faked it and then worked hard enough to make it real. That's a pretty big distinction. Although you do have to feel for them during those early days, launching into confident-sounding, jargon-filled monologues while internally panicking, hoping their colleagues get lost in the technical mumbo-jumbo. That must have been exhausting, but they made it through. And now for the last story tonight. This one's quite a journey. I lied to my pick-me friend and she got a tattoo based off of it. It's been about 2 years since this happened, but I just got confirmation from a friend who attended her tattoo appointment that it was because of what I said. The backstory. I, 25-year-old female, was introduced to Peggy, fake name, 25-year-old female, through a mutual friend. She had recently moved into a friend's neighboring apartment unit and was quickly introduced to our friend group. Almost immediately, I could tell we weren't going to get along based off of some backhanded compliments that were given, but I decided that it was too quick to judge her fairly and invited her to a game night that a friend and I were hosting. Huge mistake. Game 1, sardines. During a drunken game of sardines in the dark, Peggy faked a fall and pushed my head into a shelf. How do I know she faked it? Because she literally told me in front of everyone and laughed about it, saying I found him first, that's why I pushed you. Game 2, King's Cup. Peggy called me out during the never have I ever portion for having gone through a divorce. Talking about it normally wouldn't have bothered me since everyone who was there already knew about it and were really supportive during that time, but it was the fact that she was trying to single me out and shame me for it. Throughout the rest of the night, this kind of behavior continued, and by the end, I was thoroughly convinced she had some sort of vendetta against me. Finding out what, or in my case who, it was, took almost no time at all. One of our friends, who we'll call Mark, was in attendance that first night. Mark, 28-year-old male, is a tall, kind, funny, and generally attractive guy. Essentially, he's catnip for her type. At this time, we were pretty close friends, and Peggy did not like that. For the next 6 months, anytime he was around, I had to deal with the most ridiculous, awkward, and petty attempts of her trying to single me out or embarrass me. Now here's where the tattoo comes into play. I had been planning on getting a dragon tattoo for over a year. I am fully aware that dragons are a common and trending tattoo, but I wanted it anyways because it was special to me and my mom. I had even worked with my tattoo artist on incorporating her favorite flowers into the piece and figuring out what kind of style and other details I wanted. About a month before my appointment, Peggy heard a friend and I talking about the tattoo and started asking questions. I swear I could see the moment the light bulb went off in her head because she grew the biggest grin I've ever seen. My light bulb moment happened shortly after. When she asked where and what kind of dragon tattoo I wanted to get, I lied. I told her about how much I loved the movie Spirited Away, because I do, it's a banger, and went on a tangent about how I grew up on that movie, how my dad showed it to me, and that it'd be cool if Haku, was wrapping around my arm or something. If you haven't seen the movie, one of the main characters is a boy named Haku who turns into a dragon. Peggy had never seen this movie before, so I encouraged her to check it out and ended the conversation there. Now, considering she had never seen it before, I didn't think she'd actually do it, but read it. She did it. And it wasn't just a tiny cutesy little thing either. She committed to my exact description. The thing is freaking huge. When she showed it to me 2 weeks later, I was in shock and she probably thought I was upset for taking something from me. But I went home that night and switched between feeling awful for lying to her and laughing for how utterly unbelievable she was for doing it. 2 years later, and I'm still doing that. I had confessed to a friend recently about my lie, and that's when she told me. She went to the tattoo appointment with Peggy that day, and word for word Peggy had said she's going to be so upset. This is like the exact tattoo she wanted. Then there's an edit for frequently asked questions. Regarding the girl who went to the appointment with Peggy, we didn't become friends until after this all happened. At the time, we were only acquaintances, and she ended up dropping her as a friend for her own personal reasons after. We discovered later in our friendship our mutual distaste for Peggy, but this also wasn't the foundation of our friendship. Neither her or I dated Mark. I had turned him down early in our friendship before she came into the picture. Don't get me wrong, Mark is a catch, but he deserves someone who's crazy about him, and that just wasn't me. We sorted our friendship out prior to this whole mess, and hopefully he can find a healthy middle ground of crazy. He was pretty oblivious to the whole thing, and I didn't need him to sort it out for me, so he didn't know until way after. Didn't know how to edit a post until now, but here you go. Face is blocked out for obvious reasons, but I don't follow her socials, so you guys will have to settle for her cropped profile picture. I'll keep you guys posted if I have any updates. For now, this is just a confession into the void. Then there's an update. I finally showed this post to the friend who went with her to the appointment, and she was kind enough to supply a picture of the tattoo in progress. The crazy thing is, she did this to her too, with a tattoo commemorating her favorite music artist. From her. I initially wanted the tattoo because he's literally my favorite artist, and so I sent my artist, the one you met, my reference photo, and she said she wanted to come because she was thinking about getting one too. So we get there, and he started doing my stencil and stuff, and when she saw, she said, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute. It would be so cool if we got matching tattoos." I, being excited, and at this point having no issues with her whatsoever, was like, "Yeah girl, it's your body." So I just was like, okay, and let it happen. I guess it's a memento for her. She got the exact same thing and exact same placement too. Final update. To the readers who are asking me to show this to her to get her reaction, I don't live there anymore, so I can't. I can say, however, one of her friends found this post and reached out to me on Reddit, trying to get me to say my name. I didn't. Since then, Peggy has changed her profile picture. So this is a story about someone who got so fed up with being targeted and copied that they basically set a trap, and it worked perfectly. And 2 years later, they're still processing whether to feel guilty or vindicated about it. The thing is, you can understand both sides of that internal conflict. On one hand, deliberately lying to someone to trick them into getting a permanent tattoo on their body is pretty harsh. Tattoos are forever. That's a big consequence for being annoying and competitive. On the other hand, Peggy literally said at the tattoo appointment that the writer was going to be so upset that this was like the exact tattoo she wanted. That shows the intention wasn't innocent. She wasn't inspired by the idea. She was specifically trying to take something from the writer, to upset them, to get there first. And the pattern of behavior backs that up, pushing her head into a shelf and laughing about it, calling her out about her divorce to embarrass her. 6 months of petty attempts to single her out and humiliate her whenever Mark was around. This wasn't just someone being a little competitive. This was targeted behavior. So the writer saw an opportunity to turn it around and took it. And honestly, the result is kind of perfect. Peggy got a huge tattoo of a character from a movie she'd never even seen, permanently on her body, thinking she was stealing the writer's idea and upsetting her, when actually the writer had her real tattoo planned out with her artist the whole time. And then the update reveals that Peggy did this to someone else too, showed up to someone's tattoo appointment, saw their design, and then insisted on getting matching tattoos with the exact same design and exact same placement. So it wasn't just the writer she did this to. It was a pattern. That makes it a little easier to not feel too bad for Peggy. If you're going to repeatedly copy other people's tattoos for the specific purpose of taking something from them or making them upset, eventually someone's going to catch on and use that against you. The part where one of Peggy's friends found the post and tried to get the writer to reveal her name is interesting too. And then Peggy changed her profile picture right after. So she knows the post exists. She might even know it was about her, but she doesn't know for sure who wrote it. That must be eating at her. It's petty, sure, but it's also kind of brilliant in a way. The writer found a way to protect something that was meaningful to them and their mom, while also teaching Peggy a lesson about copying people. And Peggy has to live with that tattoo, probably forever, as a reminder. What do you think about that one? Was it justified, or did the writer go too far? Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's stories from the Confessions subreddit. Thank you for spending this time here, just relaxing and listening along. These stories are always a reminder that everyone's carrying something, everyone's made choices, they're still processing, and sometimes the things we confess anonymously are the things that sit with us the heaviest. If you enjoyed the video tonight, a like or subscribe really does help the channel grow and helps more people find these stories, but no pressure at all. And if you have any thoughts on the format, the pacing, the types of stories you'd like to hear, or anything you'd like to see done differently, feel free to leave a comment. I'm always looking to make these videos work better for you, make them more relaxing, make them something you want to come back to. Take care of yourself. I hope you have a peaceful night, whether you're winding down or drifting off to sleep. I'll see you in the next one. Good night.